Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the workshop for Wednesday, April 16th, 2025. First up is discussion to include the Hibbing Public Safety Building, Public Works Building update. Mr. Persinski, City Administrator, it's all yours.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, thank you so much. So as we get this rolling, I want to start with recognizing our internal and our external team that's on this project because it's extensive. So everybody that's in this room that has touched this project in one way or the other from our internal team, please raise your hand. Say hi to Steve. Yeah. Jesse, Sheena. I'm sure everybody back here standing up. They didn't. Also, our external team, Patrick Sims from AP, I think, is Ginny Schneider on from Broughton, and Katie Hildebrand is here. Thank you for being here, Katie. We have made huge strides in the last, I would say, 6 to 8 weeks. It's been a bit of a grind, lots of wheels moving, lots of people that are touching the project. So what we want to do tonight, a couple of things. We have a couple of critical pathway items that we want to get in front of the City Council. We tried to tee that up in an email in the packet. However, for tonight's purposes, what we did is we tried to polish it up, cut right to the chase, the things that we think are the most important for the City Council to know. All of it's important, but the very important things that you'll be taking action on next week, Wednesday, the 23rd, I think it is. So remember, those are critical pathway items, and that's why we scheduled a special meeting. So Joint Powers Agreement Contract Amendment 1. And just so you know, we'll do a little bit of round robin where we'll ask specific questions of specific staff members. So Joint Powers Contract Amendment, remember we have an overarching agreement with our partners, St. Louis County, MnDOT, the city, in order to do our public safety building on that site where the public works building is. We have to do a couple of things, one of which is the county will be leaving. They'll divest of that property totally at the end of the period when their new building is built. And then what will happen is each leftover partner, city, MnDOT, will take that share and will be 50-50 partners in that. This agreement helps us do that very thing. So it does a couple of things. Interim, the county will be here as a tenant once we close on the building. And then MnDOT and the city will take over the 50-50 partnership. So I would like to, on page 1, point to revision 1. Term of the agreement, item A, reflects that. Half interest, tenants in common. Item B, the county is going to remain at the complex while that project or their new building is being built, but they will be a tenant. So that'll be a substantial difference. And there's a lot of other stuff. Andy, if I'm missing anything, because I know, Andy, you've had a lot of contact with this agreement, please feel free to interject. Page 3, I would point to revision 5A. Those splits have changed. Remember, part of this project will be demolition of an existing building. So that'll change that split. Current split, MnDOT is 15, that'll go to 20. County is 47, it'll go to 42, or will remain at 38. So that is the change that I would point to the City Council there. Page 4 of that same agreement, item number 11. Once the county vacates that property, that split will once again change, and we have captured that in item number 11. It'll be a 65.5 city, 34.5 MnDOT, and that's from an operational standpoint. 50-50 ownership, but they'll occupy that amount of space, 34.5%. That's what it's based on.
Based on that percentage, when you're talking about a maintenance janitorial, will that be the split?
It will be.
On that also?
That
That'll
is,
match up with that?
Yep.
Okay.
So what we tried to do, and that's a really good point, maybe I'll just mention kind of the rationale behind that.
Yep.
What we're trying to do is capture who's using how much space, and then that's what your operational percentage would be. And then page 5 of that same document, revision 8, just talks a little bit about insurance and how we'll handle that. Currently, the county carries that. They'll divest. The city, we will take that under our purview and we'll bill that remaining back to the MnDOT. County will be totally out of it. City and MnDOT will share that.
Okay.
Did I forget anything?
Just Mayor, Council, just a couple more things under that. So once the county divests, once they move out, the city will take on the janitorial services for that complex. We've been in discussions, Nick and I, about how that's gonna operate, if we're gonna need, another body there to do that. So we're still working through those details, and we'll have that ironed out before the county moves out. We will take over the fuel system that's there. Currently, the county manages that. We will take over that fuel system. And then for the brine in this purchase, that MnDOT is doing, they're purchasing the brine building. So they'll make the brine, they'll provide the salt, and we'll just buy the brine from them on a per gallon basis, on a price that will become before the council before that takes place.
Very good.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
so back to the revision number 8 on page 5, is that a 50-50 split, or is it like a 65 whatever based on the square footage for the insurance?
So that's to be determined. My preference is a 50-50 split, but I haven't quite gotten there yet. And my guess is we'll end up somewhere between the 35.5 and the 50% is my guess.
Okay.
But I would like to have more conversation with MnDOT on that, so thank you for bringing that up.
Yep,
It's a great
thank you.
question.
One other thing, Mayor, Council, so once the county moves on, we will reestablish a management committee for this complex between the city and MnDOT. So pretty much to discuss any future capital projects, maintenance on the building. So in here, any capital projects have to be agreed upon between the city and MnDOT before they can move forward on the
And-
site.
Okay, does not include the deferred maintenance that needs to be done though, correct? Just
No.
moving forward after that?
Correct.
Okay.
I have a potentially really bad question.
Yes.
And I apologize if this exists already, but how, do we have any forecast of a presumed operating cost versus what we're doing now that I haven't seen?
Not for public works yet, just public safety.
We do, and you haven't seen it.
We
Okay.
did it for the public safety building.
Oh, you're talking about Public Works exclusively, or
Yeah,
that we do not have yet?
Not yet.
okay. Just curious.
We would be happy to provide that.
Yeah, I didn't know if it already existed, so, yeah.
We need to make a note of that.
Jesse, Public Works used to have one maintenance man, or, the existing facility had one maintenance person that the county hired.
Yep.
And then they were using, when I was there, a service for janitorial. Did they go back to their own employee?
Yes, the county currently has a janitorial person.
Okay,
They do a fantastic job. I mean, they're constantly scrubbing the floors, and he does a really good job.
Okay.
So we're gonna have to look at that and see what
Yep.
we need. Because we're adding on the public safety part,
Yes.
so that'll be another part of the building.
right.
So we'll have to come to a point where we know, how many bodies we need, how much time it's gonna take. So we're currently working on that.
All right, thank you.
Anything else on joint powers contract amendment number 1? All right, so turning to the memo and condition of sale. Sorry, I don't have a page number on that one, my apologies for that, but. So a couple of things that I would point out on this document. Remember, we negotiated with St. Louis County a buyout, $1.3 million. This document will capture that. So the total buyout, $1.3 million. The city's portion, $890,000. MinDOT's portion, 410,000, and this, again, is captured in that document. That being said, you want to hit the brine and the fuel system?
For what they're, yeah, so what MinDOT's getting with that, they're getting the brine building, all the contents, to make the brine, and then 2 spots in our current warm storage, is what the MinDOT.
2 additional spots?
2 additional spots.
Okay, so that'll put them up to 10?
I believe so, yeah.
I think
So
they had
then-
8 originally.
Yeah, we're getting 5 spots in the warm storage, we're getting the 5 bays in the county shop,
Okay,
and
great.
then another, cold storage Morton building.
Yep.
Andy, did I forget anything? No. Okay. So, that's the condition of sale / purchase agreement. Any other questions on that? We're trying to keep it like neat and tidy and to the point. If you'd like to go through it verbatim, just let me know. We can certainly do that as well, but. All right. So the third document that we have identified as a critical pathway document, the plat exemption.
So Mayor, Council, so for the city to access the bond funds, the $10 million, we need to split the parcel of property out and have it separated, the city be the sole owner for the parcel that the public safety building is sitting on. So we split that property out, many renditions of that. So this will go to Planning Commission, the plat exemption will go to the Planning Commission on April 21st, and then it'll go to the city council meeting on April 23rd. And that plat, the snippet of that plat, the picture of it's on there. So that gives, with that property line, working with MinDOT, they can come out of the warm storage, and the property line will be through the parking lot, but they can come out of the warm storage theoretically, not go on the property, access the salt sheds, and the brine building, and still not be on that property, even though it's in a parking lot.
Okay.
Pat Green, did you have anything to say about the plat exemption?
Jesse,
What is the time frame on us having that, full control of that property then with the change?
So the MinDOT and the county have signed off on the plat exemption. So once that goes to council, the purchase agreement goes to council, then that needs to go to the county board. And then once they approve it and MinDOT approves it, then it goes to the recorder's office.
Okay. It doesn't slow down any of our progress on what we're doing right now with demolition and,
Hopefully not.
okay.
Maybe not. I mean, that's part of the conversation that we
Okay.
have internally. I mean, we pushed really hard to get to this point
Yep.
to try to meet that, deadline. So that's the goal.
Okay, very good.
I can't promise, but that is what we're working for.
But we're ready for them to sign off, and then it's just a matter of time of being recorded.
Yep, up to and including, we're going to do a, pre-recording meeting with the recorder's office to make sure that we've got all of our Ts crossed, Is dotted
Okay.
and such.
All right.
And
Very good.
the county will lead that, they'll help us do that, so. So plat exemption, planning and zoning, April 21. And then city council action on the 23rd. The last thing that I'll mention, the conditional use permit, I won't spend a lot of time on that simply because I don't think it's really, a big deal as far as the city council action, next week. But, planning will consider that on May 5th. Is that still the case? And that is because a conditional use permit is because at least one of those 3 parcels is partially zoned residential, and we would like to make that right under the planning and zoning rules. So, did you want to add anything to that, Pat?
any public building library, utility building require, no matter where they build, requires a conditional use to build a public building. That's just in our zoning for the urban area zones. R1, 2, 3. That's why you can have hospitals in an R1 zone. It's actually a public building. Yeah, your utilities R1 zone, city halls in an R1, R2 zone. Yep. So that is all zoned where the building they're tearing down, and that property line to the east is all actually zoned R1.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, so that leads us to item number 2, public safety building, the forecast, construction, and soft cost. Patrick, I'm gonna turn it over to you, if that's okay. We'll go through that.
Thanks, Greg. Mayor, Council, good evening. Patrick Sims from Adelson Peterson Construction. I hope you have in front of you a small spreadsheet, green here a little bit, go through that real quick. Just so, from a construction standpoint, estimating at this point, the current estimate that we're reporting tonight, the budget for the bid pack 1, which is, we consider phase 2 for the public safety building, is at $29,577,718. Bid package 1 for the Central Range Public Works, because we're considering phase 1, which will start construction first, that's why it's phase 1, is $2,998,358, which has already been approved by council to move forward with. And then we have our bid package 2 for the Central Range Public Works at $297,189. That bid pack 2 is going to be some interior remodel to fit out some areas for, I believe, the State Patrol and MnDOT, and some other interior remodel later on. And then we have project soft costs estimated right now at just over $4 million. So currently we have a projected budget of $36,923,745 for the public works and public safety project. I will say through the course of this project, the process is working. When we did our first estimate back in August of 2024, we worked with Brunton, Woodseth, the city staff to reduce the budget. At that time, it was an estimate, but we reduced it by $1.9 million. When we did our estimate in December of 2024, we reduced the budget from our estimate through some value engineering. We reduced it by $309,000. And this last go around here in April, we reduced it by $636,000. So the process is working, the value engineering is kicking in, and we've been able to do this even though we've taken some budget hits with some aggregate piers that are needed for foundation support. That's almost $500,000, et cetera, things like that. So curveballs that we've got thrown a little bit from a budget standpoint, but again, the process, the construction managed delivery is working for the city and going to provide the most economical cost for the city of Pipping.
Any questions on? Okay, Pat?
There's a lot more detail, obviously, to these numbers. This is high-level summary here. Anybody wants to see the full 40-some pages and sleep well at night, some night, if you want to see it, let me know. We can certainly get it to you. So.
So 2B, I think we'll handle down under item 4. So we'll move to item number 3, deferred maintenance. Again, there's a huge amount of detail to this. We are forecasting somewhere between 5 and 8 million. Why is it such a wide window? Because it's been, to this point, a really high-level assessment of the building and what it needs. That number could go up or down depending on how, or when we get the detail when it comes to the actual improvements to the building. Jesse earlier had mentioned reconvening our building committee. That building committee will be in charge of dealing with those deferred maintenance items. And remember, we'll have a partner in that ownership, so MnDOT will be certainly participating financially, but they'll also be participating when it comes to what gets done and when. So Item number 3B is also deferred maintenance, but it's really deferred maintenance that we think we need to do right now as part of this public safety building project. And I think that was gonna be Patrick and Jeannie that were gonna talk about that. I can't remember. Were you gonna lead that off?
I certainly can.
Or was Jeannie?
Yeah.
Okay.
If Jeannie's on or go up there, so, yeah, just a quick, we've been working on the deferred maintenance costs, identifying the deferred maintenance. Brenton Architects with Widseth has walked through the Public Works building, started to pull together an assessment. The level of the assessment right now is not necessarily identifying exact quantities or exact information. For example, the re-roofing of the building that we know needs to happen. They haven't gone on top of the roof to see how much gas piping needs to get removed, how many rooftop curbs need to be replaced, some of the parapet flashing on top of the roofing. So we just haven't got that far into the details yet, but we've still been trying to put some type of cost associated with the deferred maintenance. That's the other spreadsheet that you see in front of you here. And then also lay out a yearly expenditure for items that are critical and items that can wait 2, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, or whatever it might be down the road here. So there are some code-related items that are critical to take place. One is the reinforcing of the existing structure. When the original building, according to the structural engineer, when the original building was designed and built, the bar joists that are over top of the warm storage areas for the vehicles, they're, by current codes, they're undersized. So we've got to go in and do some reinforcement to those bar joists to pick up the current snow loads to bring them up to code. We had to add some fire suppression in a couple of areas because of the interior model that we're doing for this bid package. So those types of things. And then there's some waterproofing along the south side of the Public Works building. Makes sense to do that while we're doing the parking lot for the Public Works and the public safety building, rather than putting a brand new parking lot in and coming here in a year later to tear it up. So we're trying to time out a lot of these items with the public safety and the Public Works construction, and also assess what, again, can be financially down the road a little bit further, so,
Pat, is that a bellised roof right now?
yeah,
Is it gonna stay a bellised roof?
probably not.
Probably not.
Which is
So
gonna
it'll
help.
reinforce, but will take a lot of weight. I mean, the ballast is how many tons?
Correct.
So you'll be removing the ballast, going to a different type of roof?
Yep, mechanically fastened like that. Yep.
Okay.
Yep, for sure. Yep, correct. So yeah, we're trying to get our hands wrapped around these costs, and these items the best we can, and identify them, and put the costs and help the city and MnDOT through kind of a yearly expenditure to get the building fixed up. So.
I have one question. With the work that's being done and being projected, we still have a lot to bid out, just what we discussed here. I was just curious of the work that's already being bid out, that has been bid out, how much is local contractors?
We have, let's see, bid pack 1 for the Public Works. I believe we had 6 work scopes, and we have 3 local,
Okay.
at least range for sure.
Yep.
And 2 other contractors that they don't have an office necessarily, headquarters on the range, they do have local employees.
Okay.
So, yeah, and to that note, Mayor, we had planned to put that together, that information together, and
Okay.
provide to city council when we get to that point. But we're hoping to get through bid pack 2, the big
Yeah.
public safety package,
Yep.
and then pull that information together. So,
And I know they're bids, but it's just nice, it's nice to know that we're supporting the local economy.
yep, and we do focus, our bidders list or bidders invite, we
Yep.
do put emphasis on local as much
Okay.
as we possibly can, so, yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
So, Ginny Schneider is going to be coming on here remotely, and are you there, Ginny? Hello, Ginny. So, I don't know if if she can hear us or not, but, so, do you remember Jeannie's our, architect from Brunton? If we can patch her in, we will, otherwise, if the city council has any questions for Jeannie, please let me know.
Okay.
Otherwise, we'll just move on. Okay, so, Sheena, did you want to start, or cover the funding, the sources and uses? That'd be a good place to go right now.
Sure. Within your packet is a spreadsheet that was printed out, and it has the public safety sources and uses. It says at the top, we went over this schedule yesterday in our public safety building meeting. You'll see at the bottom, I've identified the sources that we've had so far. So we had levied $75,000 in 2022 and in 2023, so a total of $150,000. We have the $10 million in the bonding legislation from 2023 that was in the cash bill. Our local sales tax just went into effect on April 1st, so we were planning to bond local sales tax bonds of the maximum amount of $19,600,000. We're also gonna seek IRRB funding for the demolition costs. And then here I have MnDOT's purchase agreement, as we've already discussed, up to $410,000. That's offsetting the $1.3 million total cost at the top. So that currently leaves a shortfall of a little over $8 million. If you remember a few meetings back, we had initiated the process where the city council approved a resolution authorizing CIP bonds for up to $10 million. And that started the window of a period of time where people could petition a certain number of the voters. We never did receive any petitions, so that's good news. And so we do have authority to issue CIP bonds up to $10 million. So that could be an offset for this deficit for the CIP bonds for the public works portion of the project.
And what would the length of those bonds be for payback?
The maximum is 30 years.
Okay,
So we'd be looking at working with our municipal advisor as far as, cost, interest,
Right.
payback, those kinds of things.
so you'll base, on what our payback would be based on interest and everything and our forecast for funding and city budget, so.
Right, we've been working with him already on timing for issuing because there's a lot of rules as far as the legislation goes on when you issue bonds and how long you have to spend them down and arbitrage and all sorts of other things. So we've been working with him on determining the timing on that, and then we'll also work on scheduling out the principal and interest paybacks so that they're strategic in such a way that it'll work with our tax levies and things like that. Because we also want to make sure we take into account the estimated local sales tax
Right.
revenue we're going to generate, so.
So Sheena, what does that do to our bond rating? Will it have any impact on our bond rating?
So, they will be rated bonds. We will have them rated for sure because of the size of them. So it'll just depend, they'll look at our whole financial picture when they do the rating. And then we still have there's still a lot of gap where we have authority to issue bonds because we have a large margin still available. So I don't think, especially the local sales tax bonds, because we're pledging another source of revenue other than just our general obligation. So therefore, it shouldn't impact as much for the
Yeah.
CIP bonds.
And we have a
Thank you.
AA rating right now.
We do, with the last one, it was a AA.
Yes,
Okay,
so the question I think to follow up, Counselor Hoffman Sockman, is we will still, after we do our bonds, up to 10, you said about 8 possibly. We still will have a lot of flexibility in bonding if we need to moving in the future.
Yeah, I'll have to double check on the exact number, but the last time when I did the continuing disclosure, we still had a large margin to
Okay.
issue, because when you pledge other revenues other than just the GO pledge, like
Yep.
this local sales tax, then it doesn't go against your margin for issuing, because
Very
you're
good.
pledging something else to pay it back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Yes.
I just wanted to give everybody a little heads up. Ginny tried speaking into a couple of different microphones, didn't work. She said, "Patrick, thank you, you covered her section well." She didn't have anything to add. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And
Okay. Anything else on funding sources, uses? Everybody's comfortable moving forward in that direction? Yeah, okay, good. Okay, so 4B, we touched on that a little bit. Kosher, City, MinDOT. I don't feel the need to go into any additional detail on that unless you would like me to. And then Jesse had hit the long-term operations and the staffing part of it. Pete, I know you had a couple questions about that, so I don't feel the need to go into any more detail on that either unless you would like me to. Did you want to hit scheduling events calendar?
I'll throw a few more dates at everybody here, so, I know there's been some dates already thrown out there right now, but, the next, item coming up is the bid package 1 for the public safety building. And that, right now is on schedule for council approval to release for bids on the 23rd of April, so next week. The bid documents will be issued or be ready on the 5th of May. We have a pre-bid walkthrough for contractors bidding the work on 5/15. Our bids are gonna be due on 5/27, and then we'll be seeking council approval on the 4th of June. So that's the kind of bidding schedule for the public safety, which obviously that's the bulk of the dollars, for sure. As far as bid pack 1 for the public works, that was already bid out and approved by council to move forward with. A couple of key dates here, so we're gonna start doing some mobilization and abatement in the existing public works building in mid-May, so we'll start that process. Interior remodel will be starting in earnest here late May of the public works, and the portion of the building that's going to be demoed is scheduled right now for the first part of July. Actually, July 2nd is what we've got. So, and I know there's a IRRR grant in there that's going to may play into that date a little bit, so some of these dates may be a little fluid, but that's what we've got in the schedule right now. And then bid pack 2, again, which we'll bid out here next, for the public safety building. We'll be starting work on that in earnest in early July, and we're still on track for a September 2026 completion.
Pat, on demolition, there must be abatement that needs to be done.
Correct.
When will that start?
That'll start as soon as the building is vacated from a mechanical electrical standpoint. We're able to
Okay.
go in there and actually kind of cut that building free. So it'll start, it'll be in conjunction with the abatement that's happening inside the existing building as well. So
Okay.
that
Very good.
mid-May to late May
All right.
timeframe. Yep.
So pretty timely then.
Yep.
Jesse, all three of you, it seems like the county has done everything we could ask them to do for opening up and moving out of their spaces, is that correct?
Yeah, Mayor, Council, the county is pretty much cleared out of the building that we're gonna demo. And they've cleared out in their shop where we have to add the stairs going up
Okay.
and down. Yeah, so far, they've been really good to work with.
Okay, I just want to mention that because they've really been cooperative in what we're trying to accomplish here.
Very professional, I would agree.
And I appreciate that. I know at the county meeting yesterday where they approved moving forward with the Public Works building, they had a lot of good things to say about working with our team. And I think that should be mentioned, that you guys did a great job, great job of leading. Pat from AP, thank you so much. And all the groups that, Katie from Winsett, I mean, everybody, the whole team has been fantastic, and that was kind of what they said.
Good. So with that, thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. Anything, that's our report to the city council. Any additional questions or things that we should follow up on and get back to the city council? Okay, so next step, next Wednesday, the 23rd, joint powers, condition of sale, plat exemption, and that'll be a substantial leap forward for this project, so, thank you.
All right. Okay, that takes care of public safety, public works, Mid-Range Sportsman's Club, who is Nick? Mr. Rowland? The service director? Informative meeting. Good stuff.
So we're in our attempt to update a few of the last remaining agreements that we have out there with user groups and nonprofits and operators of venues on our city properties. And the Mid-Range Sportsman's Club working on a renewal with them. Their last agreement was drafted in 2012, and it expired in 2022. So we're a little bit behind on this one. And we've gone through it a couple times back and forth, and we've got pretty much everything ironed out, and we're good to go on there. Yeah, just FYI, if you don't know too, they operate the gun club out west of town. They're on 160 acres of city-owned property. They have developed clubhouse out there. They've put in, basic infrastructure, slab and grade, and shooting houses and different things like that. So that's kind of what we're talking about here. But like I said, we've got through most of the agreement. We're good on everything, except number 17 here on this paper is the kind of the last sticking point with them, and it is regarding the buildings on the property. So that is the language that we currently have drafted up in there in the agreement. We do not want the buildings. If we don't want to have them move, period. But this is just if something comes along and we have to ask them to vacate the land and we have to terminate the contract, we have to have something in there regarding the buildings. We don't want them, so that's why we would propose a 60-day period for them to move them. They're their property, they can move them. If they choose not to move them, they become our property, and we can dispose or do whatever we want with them. That is our language in there. Correct me if I'm wrong on anything, Andy, feel free to jump in. They feel like they've put money into these buildings and built them on city property. They feel like they should be compensated something for those buildings if we ask them to leave that property. So I kind of just put down three options that we could go. First one is, just like I said, it's their property. They have a chance 60-day to move them. If not, they're our property. We can get rid of them. Number two, the buildings are the property of the club, and the city could provide just one lump sum payment of X amount, and that they can use it however they like. If they want to move the buildings, if they want to leave them, whatever, we could just give them a lump sum for those buildings. Otherwise, number three, we could establish a value of worth for those buildings and compensate the club for that value. Again, you'd have to figure out how do you appraise those. Do we appraise them now and we put it in contract the rest of this now, or do we do the appraisal at the end when we terminate and what the value is then? So there's options there. I guess our kind of recommendation from staff would be just to keep it as number one, I guess. They can take them and do what they want with them. They can move them. I say this because that's kind of what we've set as the precedence with other buildings on properties. I mean, you can take the animal shelter. They constructed the garage out there. We asked them to leave. We did not pay them for that building out there. You could say the Greyhound Bus Museum's on city property. If they folded as a nonprofit and no longer operated, I don't foresee us paying for that building. I mean, there's the horseshoe courts, the bocce courts. Those all were put on city property with nonprofit funds, and if they fall apart, I'm guessing we probably wouldn't pay them for those buildings that are on our property that we're insuring there. So, racetrack, similar things. There's buildings out there that the nonprofit constructed that they left. We didn't pay them. So that's kind of the rationale behind it, but I know they'll probably, there's a little bit of, maybe hard feelings on it that with this language, but I think we're consistent. Again, we're not trying to push them out by any means. This is just worst case scenario if we had to vacate that property, which we hopefully never have to cross that bridge. So just open for comments,
Okay.
feedback.
I have a question. So is there a fourth option? Would we ever sell the property to them? And they can have the whole thing?
Yeah, could be.
I mean, okay.
Could be.
I think that's an option we're off for another day, though, because we're not really contemplating selling that right
Right.
now.
No, I was just wondering though. I
It's
mean,
always, as long as we're
always-
gonna maintain control of the property, I think these are These are at least three ideas that the three
Right.
of us came up
But
with.
that could happen at another, down the road for a discussion.
It could, we could sell it to them, that's true. I think on the value part, so the council knows, I think when we talked to the gentleman on behalf of the gun club, I think he claimed that for insurance purposes, one of the buildings was at $175,000 to $200,000 was the value they maintained that one of those buildings was worth. I
Yeah,
think-
it was
I
the
think that was-
clubhouse
Yeah.
building.
For insurance
Probably the
purposes?
clubhouse, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, that is a prime piece of property for economic development in the future if we ever had a bigger project. And, you know, that would be, there's 160 acres there. You know, if something like that should happen, I would assume we would work with them. We'd have to probably establish a new location at that time. But, you know, I don't think anything's off the table, you know, but that is a prime piece of property right off the highway. But, you know, we've gone so many years with them, and I think we should focus on what, you know, these agreements, were these three agreements, Nick, are these your proposals, or is there one that they recommend?
These three options?
Yes,
These were between staff and Andy and I,
okay.
and Greg, and, yeah, we
So they
kinda-
didn't
we-
draft?
No, they did not draft
Okay,
those, that's
all right.
ours,
Yep.
that's our
If I may,
options that we considered.
yeah, if I may add a couple of things, so, I can't stress enough, this isn't, we're not trying to push this group
No,
out.
I know that.
What we're trying to do is get our arms around assets that are owned by our taxpayers that have gone unmanaged, for lack of a better term. I think, I don't know all of the details on the history, but I think what has happened is we've not engaged this group, and they have just built on different properties or different parts of the property. I can't remember, is it multiple parcels? I can't remember. It's 160
Up
acres.
to 160 acres or so, I think they thought.
But
they
the
had
point
buildings
is
on.
they've kind of taken it on their own, and there's been no, like, management and no conversation about where you can build or can't build, and that's not good for our, organization when we do that, and that's why we're trying to get some sort of agreement in place with this group and all of our groups. Mr. Mayor, I think you hit on, a point that we're thinking about. This could be a good place for the next iteration of an industrial park. I would hesitate to say that we're gonna find a place to relocate a group to. I'm not comfortable seeing that we would pay out for labor and materials. I think that gets us into a really weird spot. And then later on, well, what is that? Well, you promised. So I would like caution the city council on that. Oftentimes what I've seen over the course of time is if a municipality does allow a third party to build on their real estate, there's an agreement in place. They're actually leasing that property, and there's an exit clause at that time. We don't have that. But I think we should consider, here's the best we can do with the situation we have currently.
You know, my comment on that is, this is a group that there's been very little issues, and we know what they provide to the community and police department, and, you know, they do a fantastic job of maintaining what they do, and they've worked very well with the city over many, many years. They've moved numerous times. This was their last move to this location, and they've been there, I don't know what the date is, but it's been there quite a while. You know, I think you have to respect what they've done all these years as we move forward, and I'm not saying there's any guarantees on anything, but we still have to give them the rewards or the kudos for how they have managed the property that they do manage right now, and the way they've incorporated our whole region in a need that is needed. The next closest one, I think, is up to 38. Grand Rapids has one. Does Virginia have a gun club? Okay, they might too then. But Central Range, I mean, that draws a lot of people.
And we agree, they've done nothing wrong, and
Yeah.
they've done great things
Right.
for the community, but remember, that's an asset owned by our local taxpayers, and it's up it's our responsibility to manage that over time and think about what that looks like in 20 years or 30 years or
Right.
whenever that exit happens.
But I just want us, people to understand, we put them there. So you have to understand that's where the city put them.
Yep, and that's why we're having the conversation.
Yeah.
It's an elephant in the room, and we have to address all of
Yeah.
these
I got a little-
challenges.
I got a little bit to say on this one. Us, you know, the development part, I find it hard to believe that, I mean, you might, maybe industrial, you're looking at that, if we find, moving in that direction. I mean, the amount of lead and steel that's probably buried in that ground, they're probably not gonna wanna be building houses on it. I would say if it was somewhere where we're gonna go industrial, where we're trying to move in that direction, I would like to put a value on that property or on that building that we would give to them, and that would be paid by who's ever coming into it. It'd be split up, and they would, whoever's coming in there would pay the gun club X amount. If it's 150,000, or, I mean, we can determine a number now, we can be happy with it. But we're not gonna be paying it. Whoever's coming in, that'd be taxed onto that property, 'cause it's not gonna be residential. I mean, I can bet it's not gonna be. I'm not gonna say it never will be. But I think that would ease their mind a little bit, that they would have some compensation. Obviously, we don't want the building, but if we can find some way to have the money come up where they would be happy, we would be happy. And an outside source would be the one paying it if they really want that land that bad. Here you go, this is what's going on to it. And if it's split up between 160 acres, we say, $1,000 an acre goes towards their, you know, that purchase.
I think that's a pretty good option. I mean, it would limit our ability to build it out for speculative purposes, so we'd already have to have a client, but I think that's a pretty good alternative.
Absolutely.
Lead mitigation, that too is on my mind. I think that should be part of that exit strategy, so to speak. I think maybe we should develop some language to do that. I'd be happy with that.
That only addresses kind of half the problem, because I think the real question on this is what if the two groups can't come to an agreement after this contract is up? Then there's no development, then what happens? You know what I'm saying? Like, if, we're talking about if they leave the property, or is this only if we ask them to move?
If we ask them to move from there.
Only if we ask them to move. Does that include if we can't come to an agreement on a, you know what I mean, on a use of the land or whatever else? Do we have them under a user agreement?
Right now,
Yeah,
it's expired.
that's what I'm saying. So we're trying to figure out a new agreement.
Right.
This is language that has to go in there. When that agreement expires, if we can't come to another agreement and they leave, are we still gonna pay for their property, is what I'm asking.
Right.
So there's gotta be more to it than just if there's a development.
You had a question?
I do.
Yes.
So is this where the trap club is as well?
Yeah, everything's
Because-
out there.
Because they're their own 501c3, the trap club. So do they have their own contract then, or a user agreement with the school, with the?
So this mid-range sportsman's club is the overarching nonprofit that covers all the other ones underneath it, that manages the property. So there's the trap club, the rifle pistol club, the archery club. They're all underneath the mid-range umbrella.
Okay, thank you.
Nick, correct me if I'm wrong, every aspect of the agreement that had been expired and we sat down and worked it out.
Yep.
This is the last component
Correct.
to finalize the agreement. So you've already worked through every other aspect of it. This is the final piece.
Yep.
That's why you're bringing it before us, because it is a change.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mayor, the only other comment I would make with regard, and I don't disagree with Councilor Bayless, that is kind of the elephant in the room. The one thing that the three of us discussed was, there's nothing in the agreement, we are going to incorporate it in, that we, no disrespect to them, no more buildings unless we say yes to those buildings, because that's how we've kind of, as the city administrator said, it's like, well, things have cropped up, but the city hasn't paid attention or even known until after the fact that, oh, we built another building. So that was going to be incorporated into the new agreement is, if you want to build a new building, you need to get it approved through us first, just for ongoing use. So we're not evaluating another building in the future if in fact they're looking for some compensation.
That's a great point. Andy? So you're still looking, I mean, basically, you're kind of just looking for direction tonight, not a vote?
Yep.
Because that's all you can get tonight.
I mean, really, what's your, if you could predict the future, what's the chances that this would ever be changed? I mean, in reality, probably 0 to 5%, you know?
Yeah.
That's the part that,
I don't know
So,
that,
have they ever paid rent?
not that I'm aware of, I don't know.
So they've been around for several years, and they've never paid rent?
Not that I'm aware of.
It was never in the original agreements, correct?
The one that
Yeah.
we're working off of now that's expired, no, there was no compensation in there, and that was for starting 2012 till 2022. So I haven't seen anything prior to that.
Quick question. Do we do any of the maintenance, any of the snow plowing, any of the lawn mowing, anything out there?
Very little. They usually kind of handle their own snow plowing. If it gets too bad, I think they do call city staff or the grader to help open something up if there's a lot. We do pickup of trash, I believe, out there, but otherwise, not that, no, we don't really do too much out there, if anything.
Yeah, they've been
Besides
pretty
that.
independent.
Right.
And keep the facility in pretty good, really nice shape.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's real ownership of those groups out there, mainly because of what it's used for. You have high school, you have college, you have many different youth groups that are out there, plus archery is out there.
Yep.
I think pistol club, skeet shooting, rifle. I mean, it's a pretty full service.
yeah, and I mean, I've told them 100 times, I mean, nothing against them. We know that they offer a good service out there and everything like that. We just need to protect ourselves, and we don't want to end up like we kind of have at the raceway, you know, and trying to battle through things after somebody's gone.
Right.
We're just trying to be more on the front side of that, so.
Another quick question. Are we asking them to pay a lease fee now?
No,
What was how long had that been expired? And basically, the direction was to get all of our contracts. That's why a lot of the issues we've had to deal with many years of groups, because we're getting everything brought up to speed. So it's unfortunate, but it's what we have to do. And that was directed to the council about 3-4 years ago. So this was one of the last ones to bring up. And how old was the contract? It was expired for how many years?
it expired in 2022.
Okay, so, and that's what was happening, and now, you know, Nick, you've done a fantastic job of bringing all these contracts forward and getting things, you know, now they're on a computer system. I mean, nothing should ever fall through the cracks anymore moving forward, and you've done a great job, a lot of work with a lot of groups to get there.
So you have no answers.
no
I'm gonna give you I'm just gonna
Yeah.
give you my opinion on it, so you have at least one. I love the mid-range sportsman's club, no issue with it. I don't think as a council person I have any interest in paying them for buildings. I'll just make that clear. So, I don't know that we've ever done that, had somebody else erect buildings and then bought them from them on our property. I don't think we've done that, so.
Okay?
And I agree, because I think it's not a good precedence to set.
Okay.
Do you
I
think
agree.
you kind of had the way two scenarios, like with the race group? They owed us money. They had some unfortunate things happen with their nonprofit to lose money, and it was kind of their fault. Animal shelter lost their license, their fault. I mean, we have some blame in it too, but in this, like if they folded or lost all their money and left, no, I wouldn't want to pay anything. But if we push them out and say we want that land, well, I would have a real sore spot if I were them. That creates two different
Yeah,
scenarios.
and I would agree. I'd feel bad about that, but those are agreements that need to be made ahead of time, I think. And I understand this is an opportunity to do that, but I don't know what was talked about prior. I mean, I wouldn't build a building on somebody else's land. I don't, you know what I mean? I just, like I said, I'm not trying to poo-poo them at all. I like this group. I hope they do what they're doing out there forever and ever and ever, but I can't justify buying a building like that.
Well, look, if we did it the other way, it wouldn't be us buying it. So it's not.
No, I agree with that. Yeah, if that was the scenario, I agree 100%.
If we were to write it up like that, where if they were to get pushed out, or if it was our choice to end the lease, you know, the company or whoever's coming in would pay X amount for that.
Yep, I'd be in favor
And
of that
if you put the
100%.
number of 150 or 200,000, whatever, I mean, it's not coming out of ours. I'm gonna.
Well, I would take it a bit further and say help them relocate. If that piece of property is important enough for a company to come in,
Right.
then set an amount. But the buildings for sure should be bought out. Sometimes you gotta play tough.
I would add one thing to that, Pete. I would add one thing to that, Pete.
Yep.
If we had a client that wanted that property and there were a buyout, that client would pay that moving.
Yes, that's what I said. That's what I said.
Oh, I thought you said we would
No.
find them a place to
No, that would be something
relocate.
you'd negotiate.
Nick, were they asked to come, or maybe we should meet with their board or have their board come to a working session so we know what their interests are, or no?
Go ahead, Andy.
Well, so they had a lot of input into the agreement to the extent it is now. I think the person we spoke to over the phone, he almost made it sound like he was a mediator between with the body and then the city officials. So, not that you can't meet with them, but I think they've had a lot of already input into what Nick has been able to come up with to this extent.
Who'd you speak with over the phone?
Jason,
What's his
last name? He's the president right now of the club. I can't think of his last name for some right now.
Fetzig, it wasn't Jim Fetzig.
No.
No.
It's the one who was with him.
Yeah, Jason, I just can't think of his last name.
I think, to Chris's point, I think there's two scenarios here, and I think, you know, if they fold and they dissolve and they're leaving, then the building's ours, right? It's sitting on our property, you left it here. On the other side, if we get to an end of a contract or somebody comes in and wants that property, then I think there should be something to somehow pay them out for moving. However we write that, is the new company coming in, or something like that, but I don't see that happening. I see them staying there for the next forever, so.
That's either if it's written up as a relocation, you know, paid for relocation or paid for building, because really, the building's not gonna move, right? I don't foresee the practicality of them moving the building. Or if they do move it, actually staying in one piece or however many pieces they want it to.
Yeah.
So it's written up as either a relocation or, you know, I think that, they would be happy with that. I mean, I met with the group personally myself, just by chance. I ran into them when they were meeting and I had some conversation with them. And it seemed like that was one of their, you know, the relocation part was big to them. If they did get pushed out, you know, they would, where are they gonna go, where are they gonna have funds to get to that point? So I think, however you write it up, if it's for the value, you know, the building values or just the relocation, X amount for relocation.
And I understand what you're saying, but and I've always said this, I hate to tie the hands of future councils, and I guess,
It wouldn't be us, it wouldn't be the council, it would be the company, whatever
But-
company or business is coming in and pay it, it's not gonna be the city, it's not gonna be the taxpayers.
okay, well, because I have to see it in writing and all of that kind of stuff, like you're talking about, but, I just, you know, we need to think some more through it, and I'd really like to hear what they're having to, you know, the organization.
Nick, what is the length of this contract?
5 years.
5 years.
And we talked about meeting annually, because they haven't met with the city probably in 10 years since the last time it
right.
was done. So we did talk about meeting every year, just update how it's
Yep.
going. any future capital plans, so we're on the same page, so it doesn't get to this point or anything, so, but a 5-year agreement.
Did you put in the point that Mr. Borland mentioned about, not being able to expand unless they sit down with you? Is that in the new contract?
Yep, we're gonna,
Okay.
yep.
All right.
Andy did have some language on that, we're gonna make sure.
Well, what I see here is previous council put us in this position. Because that's exactly what you're talking about. We allowed them to go on that property, encouraged them to develop their site, and they've done a hell of a job of doing it. And the service that they provide for the Central Range area is important for sportsmen. And so I guess our question, do we wait 5 years on any other, and just, go with number one, which is what you had recommended, Counselor Bayless, to, go that direction? Or do we add, and I like the piece that Counselor Schweiberger mentioned, where you tie in some, at least, support if the land is developed. If you're developing a 160-acre site, you're gonna have a lot of economic development. That's a pretty good size, gonna have to be a pretty good size development.
Yeah, and just for the note, I prefer Counselor Schweiberger's recommendation as well. I'm not saying don't do anything, I'm saying I don't want us to have to.
Yes, I agree with that. I have no problem with that.
Okay, I'll work with that.
Monetarily is what you're looking at.
Yeah, yeah.
That we have a
suggestion is
monetary-
Wonderful, yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess for me, if you could take it back to, internally and talk about it and get all the folks in the room and chat about it, and then maybe come back with something.
Yep, I'll sit down with Andy and Greg and, the gun club, and we'll get something
Yeah.
for you guys to look at, so.
Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good talk.
So at that point, we'll go to roundtable. Mr. Krasinski?
Yeah, so, I would like to talk about compensation for boards and commissions, specifically planning and zoning and city council. We've talked periodically about it, so, I asked Angela, I think she's got all the information that she can share. I talk about it in terms of boards and commissions. I'm mostly talking about the planning commission because I think that's a key group that should have a stipend of some sort. They've inquired about it in the past. And then I know some counselors have asked me about city council compensation, so I want to just cover that, at least start the conversation. So maybe what you found?
Sure, I'll try and make it short. Good evening. So we did look at some market information for both mayor and council, and then the planning and zoning commission. Current salaries are set by the ordinance for the city council and the mayor. Currently, it's $900 per month, which is $10,800 annually. Counselors is $600 a month, $7,200 annually. The market survey that we looked at is comparable cities based on population and budget. Market average for mayor is about 7% lower than the market that we looked at, coming in at about 11,576. For council, it's a larger gap, about 22%. Council is about 8780 annually. This doesn't consider other compensation, like any benefits that they might receive or other types of compensation, like some cities receive additional stipends for board chairs or attendance at meetings. So it is truly just the base compensation. Greg also asked me to touch on the para deferred comp plan. Again, you might recall in 2024, there was a change to that plan. You currently have the option to participate. When you first started, all of you first started, you were able to change that election anytime you wanted. In 2024, there was a modification. Any new hires had 30 days to make a final election to participate or not. Current electeds were able to make a change or elect or drop within a certain time period. So any elections that you've made for your deferred comp, you are stuck with those during your term. Andy might be able to touch on the statutory timelines for making changes to mayor and council compensation. Do you have any information on, I think it's the
Pretty sure you
next
can.
general election.
Yeah, the next election would determine, so this council can't give themselves a raise, so to speak. Whenever the next council term would start, they could, that's considered a new council whenever, so 2 years from now or whatever.
Any questions on the market data for mayor and council comp? Anything else you wanted me to touch on that, Greg?
That
Okay.
covers it.
So then, planning and zoning, same cities that we looked at. We only had 10 respond regarding to this. We currently do not compensate. The statute does allow it, although it doesn't explicitly mention it. 2 of the 10 did provide some stipend, one providing $600 per year and the other providing $900 per year. The other 8 did not provide any compensation. So I know there's been some discussion about whether or not we should compensate them in any way, and I don't know if you want to touch on that a little bit more.
Yeah, that's the debate, internally and externally. Some of our commission members, and Pat probably would be the best person to ask, have inquired about it. Something that recognizes their time and coming in, because planning and zoning oftentimes takes a lot of time and effort to work your way through. I was interested to see that of those that we surveyed, only 2 compensate the planning and zoning commission. I think it's due. It's a key element of how we do our business. Not everybody probably agrees with that, and that's fine, I don't have a problem with that, but Pat, did you want to say a few words about planning and zoning commissioners and compensation?
As far as
Yeah, what-
compensation? Well, I know we had one meeting about it, and
Yeah, what you've heard from past commissioners, your thoughts, do you think it is a good idea or a bad idea? And maybe level and just kind of an overall what you think?
well, when we were short and nobody signing up, that's when the idea came up about compensation. We did check, Tina checked with other communities. But they don't really, as far as there is planning and zoning, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't. And I don't know how many of our commissions or that do get compensations. I can't remember. We probably.
I can jump in, Mayor and
Yes,
Council.
would you
Um,
please?
Sure, so the airport gets compensated, the HRA, HEDA. I think that's HPU, yes, I'm sorry, yes, because there are 4.
Do you by chance know the numbers on those?
The airport gets $150 per month,
No,
isn't it?
125. And you
125.
have to show up for your meeting.
And you have to show up for your meetings, okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Yep, the public utilities get $600 per month. HEDA, it's $100 per month unless you are the president or vice president. And then the HRA, I wanna say it's $150.
No, I think it's like 80. I mean, it's much lower.
Okay,
Yeah.
that one I'm not sure,
I can-
yeah.
Yeah.
So then,
So we never know how many meetings, it all depends on people that are coming forward for a plat exemption or conditional use. So it can vary, and that's what our discussion was a little bit. Should it be per meeting? There might be 3, throughout, in 6 months, or should it be per month? But then there could be 20 meetings. And this last year and this year, we've had 18 last year, and so far this year, we've probably had 5 planning commission, 1 board of adjustment, 6.
6 and 3 in
So far.
3.5 months.
Yeah. And then we have one next week, and
Yep.
then May 5th, and, depending, we never know when somebody's gonna come forward either. You know, I don't have an April.
So Greg, were you looking, what were you looking for? I mean, you directed,
Yep, so, I wanted to start the conversation, see if that's of interest to the city council, both commissions and then also city council. Commissions is probably a little bit easier, I think the pathway is pretty straightforward, you just implement, is it covered in ordinance, is that?
I don't know what the ordinance have to say, I'd have to double check, otherwise I think by resolution, the
Okay.
the council could set a schedule for the different bodies.
So my thought would be that we confirm what those other groups are receiving. I think that would be a really good idea. Send out the information that Angela had just shared with the city council. I think something to ponder, if you will. And then we check back in a month or so. That's what I'm thinking.
I got
Go ahead, no, please.
yes,
I just, it's $75 per meeting for the HRA.
75.
one a month.
Yes, and then they only get paid for an official board meeting, that's it.
Angela, I got one question for you. So it was 600 a month for counselors,
Yes.
and counselors appoint the HPU, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And the HPU also gets 600 a month?
That's what Candy said.
Okay. Interesting. Do we know when when the last time any changes were made?
The date on this was 2012, but I believe Candy said it goes much farther back than that.
It does.
Yeah, it was
It
like,
was-
if not 90s, then it would have been 80s.
Is when it was at the 600 mark?
No, that was 2012, wasn't it?
I don't know that I've been here
It was.
since it
It
increased.
was the meeting where it was determined that they would, we put up,
You're talking about public
I'm
utilities.
talking about public utilities.
No,
Is
but
that what
for
you're
council-
talking about? Oh, sorry.
I was just asking the council.
Oh, yeah, so no,
Last-
PUC was
last
back in,
For council, I can't remember.
Okay.
I don't know that it
So,
happened.
so 600 for a council member in 1990 is comparable to 600 for a council person in 2025.
Apparently.
Okay. Just so I understand all the.
where you're going with it.
And I know a couple of years ago, we had set forth to sunset the medical benefits for new counselors. And at that point, we opted to just take that savings and not adjust any of the other benefits or compensation, correct,
Yes.
for counselors? and
Yep.
mayor.
So there are a few that are still on the benefits, but no new ones are able to elect.
Do you remember offhand the budget impact of that? You weren't here at the time, were you?
The insurance?
Well, just of changing all, the stuff that we changed, we took that off, and then we were budgeting for all counselors to potentially be on insurance. Now we're budgeting significantly less, and I think that was part of the initial conversation, was to make room to compensate boards, commissions, things like that, so that was,
Greg was here
it's
for
time.
that.
You were here when that
Yep.
happened, okay.
But I don't have the number.
Yeah.
I was just curious.
Thanks, Candy.
You're welcome.
I wasn't here.
Candy, at one time, didn't though the commission, the PUC commission got health insurance versus
Correct.
payment? And I think when City Administrator Dicklich was here, he eliminated the health insurance
Yeah.
and set the 600, I think, based on, I think it had something to do tied to how much the cost was for the health insurance. So I think that's where that number came from, John, for the.
even the
PUC
school
commission.
district used to have insurance, and they did away with that quite a few years ago. It's just the cost got so astronomical that, so you'll have something, Ms. Krasinski,
Yes, and it'll be in the next month or two that we can do the analysis. Jamie brought up a great question. What is the difference, eliminating those benefits? So we'll do a little bit more detail. On the city council side, any direction on that?
leave mine alone. I don't want anything adjusted, just leave it where it is.
To piggyback off that, if we're gonna raise any of them, I think the mayor's seat should also be increased. Sorry, but
No, now that I see, what our counselors receive versus PUC, how many years ago, I think they should be looked at. And, but I'm comfortable. I just, it's where I'm at.
Okay.
So,
Good, thank you. I have nothing else from my office.
good.
The only, you said.
Steve, or- Okay.
So the only thing, I had sent you an email just asking who would be here for the local board of review.
When is that again?
Was it May 13th?
May 13th.
Yeah, and it's for 1 hour, 1 to 2 o'clock.
I think I received.
And I
that
have
too.
2 people who can't be here.
What day
so-
of the week is it?
Tuesday.
Tuesday after opening fishing?
You know, I bet it is.
I'm on vacation that week.
Perfect, you can come in.
I'll be a ways away.
Okay,
I will be here.
I've got 3,
I won't be here.
so we will not have a quorum.
Okay.
How many do you need?
4.
Okay, I think I have it down.
1, 2, 3, yeah. This is set by, through the county, so
Yeah.
If you absolutely need
I need
for a
one more for
quorum,
1
I
hour.
can somehow make it where I responded to you that I worked that day, but I could.
For 1 hour, is that what it is?
And we only need 4 to open the meeting, right? Like if you had to leave, maybe.
Well, but I mean, yes, but it's nice to have 4 here.
Let me say if you had a call or something.
Right.
It's working.
Yeah.
That's what Chief Longoria's for. Get his back enough.
That's all that I have. Counselor Whitney, we can talk about it. Thank you.
Mr. Bayless, Council
I
Bayless?
just have one quick one. I've noticed, and this kind of happens every year, but I'm curious if we're trying to do anything different about the break-ins. People's cars getting shot. Are we patrolling alleys at night, like cruising and, cause I leave my office at like midnight, 1 o'clock, and I go cruise around, seeing if I can find, see if anybody's in anybody's alley digging around my neighborhood. I never see anything, but I'm just curious. I've gotten some calls. Okay.
Juveniles.
Yeah.
It's been juveniles.
Okay.
We had 2 cars stolen last week. So yeah, we're up.
Okay. Just making sure that
Yeah.
we're out there beating the streets. I'm good, that's all I had. Thank you.
Counselor Fossil?
I'm good.
Counselor Schweberger?
Good.
I am good.
I'm fine, thanks.
Counselor Whitney?
Quick question, probably for Candy. I think I forwarded you the email about minutes being published. Someone had a gripe about that. I got one, and they claimed that after their minutes are approved, they're not being published on the website. Can you
So-
update on that?
Yep, so I think that I've changed what they were requesting. There's 2 spots where you can pick, it would say agenda. Well, apparently, after I talked with civic clerk, the first one is the first week, the second one is the second week, or the second meeting of the month. I did not know that. So I feel like we got them all, yeah,
Same one who reached out to me.
Right,
Yep, I
yep.
think it was straightened out.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah. Thank you, though.
perfect, thanks.
Mhm.
I'm good. Good.
I'm good.
Pass.
All right. Well, that is it for our working session.